A hush clung to the air of Highgarden like the lingering perfume of a rose clipped too soon, the faintest tremor of anticipation traveling the polished corridors and sun-soaked courtyards. Marjorie Tyrell drifted through that hush as if she had been born from the jasmine-scented breeze itself, silk slippers silent, green velvet gown whispering around her ankles. She carried a basket of fresh-cut blooms, white roses coaxed into perfect shape by gardeners who all adored her, and placed them one by one in a crystal vase on her mother's writing table. It was a small, meaningless act, and precisely the sort of gesture every onlooker expected from the young lady of Highgarden. Delicate, dutiful, harmless. Harmless. The word made her smile, soft and secret, as she breathed in the petals' heady fragrance. No one suspected the calculations unfolding behind her doe-eyed warmth, nor the steel-tipped threads she was already weaving through the tapestry of the realm. They saw a flower. They did not see the roots that burrowed into soil, searching for every hidden artery of water, or the thorns kept veiled beneath the leaves. Her grandmother's cane tapped in the doorway. "Pretty," Olenna Tyrell observed, voice dry as sun-baked earth. "But beauty won't keep dragons or lions from biting." Marjorie turned, dimples blossoming. "It sweetens the bite, though, doesn't it, grandmother?" Olenna's eyebrow quirked. "You intend to be the sweetest venom in Westeros, I take it." "I intend," Marjorie replied, arranging one last rose so its reflection caught the afternoon light, "to have the realm believe I am whatever each corner of it needs me to be, until every corner kneels." The plan's first seed had been sown at King's Landing on the day Joffrey Baratheon died. Marjorie had clasped her gloved hands, eyes bright with practiced horror, while unseen relief crashed through her veins. Tommen's gentle nature made him pliable, and Cersei's grief cracked open crevices ripe for maneuvering. Yet that had merely been Marjorie, the good Marjorie who smiled kindly, who stepped aside so the grieving mother might cling to a throne already slipping from her grasp. The second seed she buried during Tommen's short reign. She became beloved by the small folk, frequenting the city's septs and orphanages, showering bread and coin as generously as smiles. Her husband, King, intoxicated by her gentle counsel, signed decrees she ghost-wrote, building a bridge of afflection from throne to gutter. While the faith militant sharpened iron points on seven-pointed stars, she praised their piety in public and whispered of moderation in private, creating in her person the illusion that iron could coexist with silk. The third seed she held in reserve, deep, dark, unseen, until the morning the great September shattered into emerald flame. When wildfire's roar died, leaving stone bones and blackened ash, Tommen flung himself from the Red Keep, and Cersei rose from ruin crowned in smoke. Marjorie should have been dead, but she had not attended the doomed trial. A sudden bout of fever, she claimed. In truth, it was foreknowledge. A folded parchment slipped beneath her door 2 nights before, penned in a hand known to master every font in the realm. "Spare yourself. The dragon means to burn faith and foe alike." The signature was a single elongated droplet of ink. Varys's little silk spiders spun larger webs than most sensed. She escaped to Highgarden under cover of grief, a widow twice over at barely 18. She mourned where all could see. Public prayers in the castle sept, black gowns trimmed with Myrish lace, hair unbound in Tyrell green ribbons signifying innocent sorrow. Yet in private solar and moonlit garden she met with generals, spymasters, and bankers. Letters flowed from her quills, some in her own flowery script, others forged to mimic distant hands, each carrying rumors to be fertilized, fears to be watered, desires to be pruned. One letter traveled north, beyond the neck, to Sansa Stark at Winterfell. Another rode waves to Sunspear, addressed to Princess Arianne Martell. A third went west across the Sunset Sea to Braavos, promising the Iron Bank favorable returns on a future defined by roses. Meanwhile, ravens flew to Old Town with honeyed phrases for the Hightowers, and to Riverrun with condolences to Edmure Tully's new bride. She wrote to every house that had ever harbored a spark of resentment against the Lannisters, then wrote secondly to each house that feared Targaryen fire. She placed herself, carefully, as the cool, fragrant alternative to madness or tyranny. Neither wolf nor lion nor dragon, but a rose to soothe the bleeding realm. Yet names and sigils alone would never seat her. She needed men in polished armor, needed golden coins, needed stories sung so loudly they drowned the ones that would call her usurper. To raise an army required a patron of war, and so she sought a bear. Ser Jaime Lannister greeted her under a white silk pavilion pitched on the border between the Reach and the Stormlands. His armor brushed to a mirror sheen that reflected the flutter of Tyrell banners snapping overhead. He arrived alone save for a single squire, and when Margaery asked why the Kingslayer would step beyond Cersei's walls without escort, his smile was thin as a rapier. "Because my sister believes I ride to rally her bannermen," he said, offering an elegant bow. "And my sister must never be proven wrong." Margaery's own smile was softer, layered petals concealing steel. "Is your loyalty so fragile you fear to challenge her openly?" "It is precisely because I am loyal that I cannot remain silent," he answered. "I love her, yet I love the realm more. And she will burn it to ash for revenge." They spoke long, of mad kings and murdered children, of debts unpaid and futures uncertain. Jaime confessed that the Lioness Queen had become the very monster he once slew. Margaery listened with tender eyes, head tilted, curls brushing her cheek. When his words slowed and weariness slipped into the golden green of his gaze, she offered not condemnation, but absolution. "Then help me," she whispered. "Help me carve a gentler kingdom from the wreckage she leaves behind." He hesitated. What kingdom welcomes a crippled knight? "One ruled by a queen who values hearts over hands," she said, resting her gloved fingers on his maimed wrist. The gesture was intimate enough to ignite rumor, innocent enough to deny impropriety. She felt his pulse quicken beneath the leather strap and knew another thorn found its place. By dusk, Jaime pledged his sword and what remained of his honor to her cause. He would return to the capital, feign obedience, and quietly draw sympathetic captains to her banner. When he departed, she watched the dust of his horse's hooves drift across the horizon, then turned to her captains. "Send riders," she ordered, voice as crisp as the first autumn wind. "We march in 3 fortnights' time, but first, let us bring honey to the bees." King Euron Greyjoy's fleet glimmered like black iron teeth across Blackwater Bay when Margaery sailed in under a Tyrell standard of truce, a single ship heavy with casks of arbor gold. Euron, ever curious, allowed her to board his flagship. She arrived with no guards, no jewels beyond a rose-cut emerald at her throat, and no fear. In the captain's cabin, between maps of Westeros sketched on skin-flayed backs and jars housing pickled eyes, she poured him wine with a steady hand. "What brings a flower to my waves?" Euron asked, reclining upon a throne of stuffed kraken tentacles. "A proposition," she said. "Cersei's wildfire cannot burn water. Your ships choke kings landing from the sea. My armies will cut her supply lines from the fields. Together we pluck the lioness from her perch and split the spoils." Euron's smile was a rusted anchor. "And when the lioness is dead, we weave crowns from her mane," Margaery answered. "You upon the salt throne you crave, I upon the iron throne I deserve." He considered her across the candlelight, one eye black as a moonless night, the other shining sapphire. "I could marry you," he mused, swirling wine. "Combine salt and soil in our children." "My womb is not a harbor to be conquered," she replied, letting amusement flicker across her lips. "But name your price. Gold, grain, hostages, a city's worth of pretty girls. All shall be yours if you sail where I command." Euron laughed, a sound like sails tearing in a gale. "I have dreamt of bedding a dragon queen, yet tonight I find a rose more intriguing." He leaned forward, wine-dark tongue wetting his lips. "Very well, Blossom. I'll ravage the Blackwater for you, if you promise me first pick of the treasures within the Red Keep." "Done," she said, extending a hand. His fingers closed around hers, rough and calloused, and she felt a tremor of revulsion crawl her spine even while she smiled. One more viper in the garden, its fangs pointed at others for now. When she departed at dawn, the casks once filled with arbor gold remained behind, replaced by ink-sealed agreements. She sailed south, not to Highgarden but to Old Town, where the Hightowers kept watch in their mighty tower. There, she knelt before Lord Leighton and whispered of sins Cersei committed against the faith, of Queen Marjorie who would restore Mother's mercy to the throne, of tithes forgiven and influence granted. She left with the starry September's blessing and a company of devout knights pledged to her banner of white roses quartered with 7 pointed stars. 3 fortnights later, a windless dawn draped the reach in pale gold. Marjorie stood at the head of her host, ranks of infantry stretching beyond the morning haze. Banners rippled. Roses green on gold, golden krakens within crimson suns, the flayed man of House Bolton, stolen from enemies to break their spirits, furling alongside the crowned stag of a Stormlands cohort who had grown weary of Lannister debt. Behind them all rose a single towering standard, a white rose entwined with a ring of 7 stars, stitched by Marjorie's own hands under lamplight. It was new, unclaimed, and thus powerful, an emblem of possibility rather than memory. Scouts brought word that Cersei's legions marched from King's Landing to intercept them on the Gold Road. The battles to come would decide more than a crown. They would decide stories mothers told daughters of what power could be. Marjorie rode along the lines astride a chestnut courser, armor glinting silver. She addressed them not as men beneath a lady, but as comrades upon whom history balanced. She spoke of gardens ravaged by war and how roses yet regrew. She spoke of children who deserved lullabies instead of screams. She spoke of justice tempered by mercy, of a queen who would not burn her own people to light her path. Every word slid like river water over stones, shaping them. When she finished, an echoing roar burst from the ranks. Thousands of voices flowered into one. She breathed that roar into her lungs and felt its tide carry her higher than any dais of carved oak. In that instant she glimpsed the throne, a silhouette at sunset, edges glowing hot, and knew she would reach it. Yet she also knew thrones were not won in dawn speeches. They were won in whispered corridors, in coins changing hands, in alliances sealed by skin, and in blades finding flesh in the quiet between one heartbeat and the next. She had laid intrigue like irrigation channels through dry fields. Now the crop of loyalty must drink blood to grow tall. The first clash came at dusk near the ruins of Ashford Castle. Cersei's vanguard, commanded by Ser Randall Tarly, once her father's bannerman, drove hard against the Tyrell left. But Marjorie had watched her uncle train knights since she could toddle across courtyard stones, and she knew House Tarly's pride. They struck swift, expecting lesser levies to scatter. Instead, she set a trap of retreating pikemen who lured them into a marshy bend of the Mander where hidden scorpions awaited. By moonrise, the vanguard lay drowned in mud and corals. She ordered captured banners washed and re-raised beneath her own, a silent signal to approaching enemies. The rose consumes the huntsman's spear. As days bled into weeks, skirmishes blurred into a tapestry of red and green. Rumor rode faster than ravens. Queen Marjorie of the 7 Blossoms, they called her. The Widow Queen, the Rose of Lion's Bane, the Maid of Mercy. Tales grew like ivy. Here she spared orphaned minors and fed them from her own kitchen. There she commanded a field execution of rapists, their heads sent to Casterly Rock in lidded baskets of perfumed petals. Songwriters birthed ballads before the battles finished, describing a woman who fought with kindness in one hand and cunning in the other. Half of it untrue, but truth mattered little next to belief. Jaime returned at last with 200 Lannister guards disillusioned by Cersei's tyranny and bearing grim tidings. King's Landing was faltering under blockade, grain stores dwindling, tempers flaring. The small folk cursed their queen behind closed shutters and prayed for a savior who was not made of wildfire. Jaime's arrival also delivered one priceless treasure, the ledger of Cersei's debts to the Iron Bank, smuggled by Varys. With it, Marjorie penned a final letter to Braavos, promising full repayment plus double interest within a decade, secured against Reach harvests. The Iron Bank's reply was a simple iron key, symbol of open coffers. While the lioness flailed, the rose rooted deeper. Autumn's first breath crisped the leaves when Marjorie's host reached the fields outside King's Landing. Euron's ships choked the bay, black sails blotting the horizon, yet the city still stood. Its walls were higher than any ladder, its gates barred by scorpions, its towers bristling with archers. Cersei's wildfire caches, hidden in sewers and cellars, promised green death should the siege drag too long. Margaery had no desire for protracted war. She desired pageantry. She sent riders to every camp, inland, seaside, and across the encircling lines, ordering torches lit at dusk. 10,000 flames flickered as the sun dipped, forming a ring of orange petals around the dark city bud. Then, atop a hill crowned with an ancient weirwood stump, she erected a platform and climbed it dressed in flowing white. The hush of Highgarden's hush returned, now heavy with crackling fire and heartbeats. In silence, she produced a parchment bearing her lineage. Olenna's granddaughter, Maester's heir, blood of Garth Greenhand, voice of the Reach's wheat and wine. She read it aloud. Her voice carried where the torches could not, each syllable like the slow toll of a bell. Then she spoke of the faith, of the realm's broken covenant with the Seven, of Cersei's sacrilege. She offered amnesty to every man within the walls who laid down arms before sunrise. Her bread wagons would feed them, her healers tend them, her mercy absolve them. When her words ended, she knelt and bowed her head toward the city. An unexpected prostration. The gesture rippled through the watching throngs like wind through barley. Even the distant walls seemed to lean forward. At dawn, the gates opened. They came not as an army but as tide. Starving soldiers clutching rusted helms, small folk dragging children, septons bent beneath cracked staves. Margaery stood among wagons piled with loaves and pitchers. She touched muddy cheeks, spoke soft prayers, and asked each man's name before sending him onward free. Behind her, Euron's men collected surrendered arms under the watchful gaze of Tyrell captains. By midday, King's Landing was half empty of defenders. Jaime led a column through the Lion Gate unopposed. At the Red Keep's courtyard, he found Cersei alone upon the throne, crown askew. They exchanged no words. Margaery's letter in his pocket spoke enough. He placed a hand on the pommel of his sword, but it was Cersei who drew first, pressing the edge to her own pale throat. A final choice between gilded cage and oblivion. Jaime tried to stop her. He was too late. When the last heartbeat spilled into crimson, he closed her eyes and covered her with a cloak bearing a rose. The coronation occurred 3 days later, beneath skies scrubbed clear by autumn rain. Euron attended in black silk armor fringed with battered kraken skulls. Aerion Martell stood radiant in orange and gold. Even Sansa Stark, newly styled Wardeness of the North, knelt in pale wolf-gray velvet at the foot of the throne. The High Septon anointed Margaery's brow with 7 oils. As the crown, new forged, wrought of intertwined steel thorns inlaid with emerald buds, descended upon her curls, trumpets blasted. She rose, not Lady of Highgarden, not Queen Consort, but Queen of the 7 Kingdoms, first of her name. Applause thundered like storm surf. Yet beneath the roar she felt Olenna's words. Beauty won't stop dragons or lions from biting. She had fed the iron price to Euron, promised coin to bravos, bartered pardons to the faith, and soothed northern grudges with southern warmth. Still, every smile could sharpen to demand. Every alliance owed interest. A crown weighs heaviest not upon the brow but upon the soul that must keep its promises. She stepped forward, lifted gloved hands, and the hall hushed again. Her speech flowed soft as honey, pledging justice tempered with mercy, peace watered with vigilance, and rebuilding financed by Tyrell gold. Yet as she spoke, her eyes traveled the throng, marking which lords bowed deepest, which lingered upright, which measured her with hungry gaze. She saw the game within the game, the power behind the chairs. She felt the throne's cold iron arms cradle her like a mother who might smother its babe at whim. When she finished, she sat, a rose upon a forge of swords, and allowed a single breath of triumph. In the distance, she thought she heard petals falling, a gentle susurration masking the scrape of steel. For victory is not the garden. It is only the gate. Beyond lies soil yet unbroken, seeds yet unsown, and shadows that lengthen with every setting sun. And Margaery Tyrell, queen of thorns and mercy, would till that dark earth herself, planting roses whose roots would wrap the realm so tight that no storm, no lion nor dragon, could ever uproot them again. The hush returned, richer now, no longer uncertainty but awe. And in that hush, Queen Marjorie smiled, harmless as a rose, deadly as the silent approach of spring. Moonlight spilled through the pointed windows of Maegor's holdfast, bathing the freshly refurnished solar in shifting panes of silver. Marjorie Tyrell, now crowned, titled, and bowed to as your grace by every trembling tongue, sat alone at a table strewn with parchment. Wax gutters smoked beside a goblet of unwatered arbor red, but she had not touched the wine. Her thoughts were too sharp to dull. The Iron Throne itself crouched 3 halls away, gleaming in torch blaze, yet it already felt distant, a mountain glimpsed from the valley where the real climbing began. Each document before her was a handhold on that ascent. Tallies of grain, rosters of garrisoned gates, private promises scribbled in her own cipher. Outside the arrow slits, King's Landing rustled like a restless sleeper. She had ordered bakeries open through the night, free loaves for every queue, and the smell of rye and honey drifted upward. Hunger was a sharper blade than steel. She blunted it first. Tomorrow the small folk would wake to steaming bread and watered wine, and they would tie her name to the first warm crust they tasted since the blockade began. Loyalty, she had found, was often baked, not born. Silk whispered behind her. Olenna Tyrell's reflection appeared in the windowpane, cane crooked over one arm. She spoke without preamble. The ramparts are patched with sandbags, not stone. If a dragon arrives before the masons, we may as well wave surrender. Marjorie did not turn. If a dragon arrives, grandmother, we will invite it to land in the royal gardens and feed it oxen until it dozes. One cannot wrestle flame, but one can starve it of reason to burn. Dragons answer only to their riders, Olenna countered, and Daenerys rides 3. 2 now, Marjorie corrected, voice mild. Reports place Viserion fallen to a crossbow bolt near Pentos. Dragons bleed like any beast, yet their queen still lives, and her course points here. Be wary she does not sup on your hospitality and then torch your table. Marjorie finally faced her. She will find a realm already fed and praying for peace. If Daenerys means conquest, she must answer why she burns bread and prayer together. Olenna's shrewd eyes narrowed, but she nodded once, acknowledging the strategy even as she poked for holes. Very lyrical, child. But parchment and pastry will not fend Euron's appetite longer. The Kraken grows bold with each unchallenged day in the bay. He was always meant to grow bold, Marjorie said, rolling up a ledger. A fattened tick is easier to pluck. Pluck him soon, then, before he burrows so deep the flesh comes off with him. The elder Tyrell tapped her cane and left as silently as she had come, cloak trailing the scent of crushed mint. Marjorie waited until her footsteps faded. Then she lifted a blank sheet of vellum, dipped quill in green-black ink, and began a new letter, this one not to a lord or banker, but to the mother of dragons herself. A torchlit council assembled at dawn in the small hall, its ceiling still soot-scarred from Cersei's reign. Jaime Lannister leaned against a pillar, gold hand glinting. Lord Leighton Hightower of Old Town sat beside his Maester son Malora, their robes smelling faintly of sea salt and Candleman's wax. The High Septon hovered near the doors, white beard tucked into cloth of silver, flanked by silent sparrows newly retrusted with their cudgels. Across from him lounged Euron Greyjoy, boots propped brazenly on a carved griffin chair, black salt curls damp with sea spray he refused to wipe away. Between them, Marjorie took the high seat, though not the Iron Throne, whose jagged presence she reserved for audiences grander than strategy. Here she favored a straight-backed oaken chair draped with Tyrell ivory damask. Her crown of thorned steel lay on the table, set aside like a dagger close to hand. She began with numbers: grain reserves, first harvest yields, shipments escorted upriver from the Reach under guard patrol. Then coin, the Iron Bank's extension of credit confirmed. Interest rates have due to timely payment, Bravosi auditors to arrive within the fortnight. Lord Leighton nodded at each figure, noting them in a ledger annotated with star charts and arcane sigils. Euron yawned. All the world's ledgers never won a throne. Neither will they keep one. I'll hear of plunder, not porridge. You shall, Marjorie said, unruffled. Today you receive the keys to 3 counting houses on the Street of Silk, confiscated from Lannister loyalists. Gold, gems, spice receipts. Their contents are now yours, as agreed. Euron's boots thumped down. A fair bite, yet I recall promises of first pickings from the Red Keep. And you shall have them. She gestured to Jaime, who produced a lacquer box and slid it across the table. Euron opened it. Necklaces of black pearls, rings set with tourmalines, a scepter topped by a star sapphire the size of a swallow's egg. His grin split wide. More will follow, Marjorie said, once your fleet lifts anchor and sails, tonight, to restore trade routes along the Mander and escort reach grain barges east. The city starves for oranges and oil. You will carry both, for profit. A kraken with merchants in its belly earns more than one gnawing harbor walls.
Eurones grintined.
You'd have me play dockhand while you sit safe? I would have you grow rich while the realm grows fed. Enough gold to forge 10,000 anchors. Refuse, and the Iron Bank will gladly fund another admiral to do the same. Silence stretched, taut as sailcloth in gale. At last Euron snapped the box shut. Very well, but my ships need plunder to keep blood hot. Give me storms to chase. The summer sea teems with Carthane's spice caravels, she replied smoothly. Raid them quietly and leave my merchants untouched. The world will blame corsairs from stepstones. I will not contradict. Euron laughed, salt spray in his eyes. A sweet bloom hides sharper thorns than I thought. Done, blossom, done. He rose, sailing coat swirling, and strode out with treasure under his arm. Marjorie watched him go, a gardener noting where weeds must later be uprooted. The High Septon cleared his throat. While pirates play corsairs, your grace, the poorer faithful within the city cry for a sept to replace the one so wickedly destroyed. Marjorie inclined her head. I have chosen a rise along Visenya's hill. Foundations are to be laid within the week. The new sept shall bear the name of Aegon the Peacemaker. The faith militant will oversee its sanctity, though crown architects will ensure it never shelters wildfire beneath its stones. The old man's watery eyes brimmed. The 7 smile, your grace. They must do more than smile, she murmured. They must guard. She dismissed the council. Jaime lingered. You handled Euron deftly, he said when chamber doors shut. Yet I fear his nature. A storm cannot be steered by promise. We need only ride its wind until we reach safer shores. She considered him. How fare the Lannister garrisons in the Westerlands? Fractured. Some name me Oathbreaker for siding with you, but my brother works to quiet them. At Tyrion's name they both paused, sharing an unspoken thought. The imp served Daenerys. His silver tongue and the Dragon Queen's fire made a formidable pair. Jaime exhaled. When she comes, he said quietly. Can words alone turn her aside? Marjorie laid a hand atop his golden one. Words, gold, hostages, alliances. Together they may weave a net strong enough. And there is always winter steel.
Stark Stil, Jaime echoed.
Sansa will not break faith. The North hungers for southern trade and southern peace. She knows war's cost. Jaime studied Marjorie's fingers against his cold metal palm. You speak of costs as if you've never paid them. She withdrew her hand gently. I have paid in husbands and in innocence. I will not pay in ashes too. 2 days later, the Lady Crane, a sleek Tyrell galley painted emerald, slipped from Blackwater Rush bearing letters under triple seal. One sailed to Dragonstone, where Daenerys Targaryen reportedly gathered her commanders. A second sailed to Dorne, reaffirming Aerion Martell's claim to Sunspear in exchange for spearmen to guard the Red Mountains against Sellsword incursions. The third sailed north toward White Harbor, inviting Lord Wyman Manderley to court for a feast of reconciliation. Fish fattened on flattery swallowed hooks most readily. Meanwhile, Marjorie walked King's Landing streets nightly, cloaked and guarded at a distance. She watched torch lines of beggars transform into bread lines, listened to gossip in taverns, noted which cobblers praised her alms and which cursed new taxes. Each mutter, each bent knee, became a thread in her mental tapestry. Where resentment gathered like mildew, she sent healers or coin. Where loyalty blossomed, she watered it with attention. No ruler could hold a city she never stepped foot in. On the fifth night, rain fell. She ducked beneath an overhang beside the street of steel, cloaked in plain wool. The cobbler beside her, a stooped man smelling of glue, did not recognize his queen. He spoke to keep his teeth from chattering. "Storms come shy of summer these days." "So they do," she answered. "Yet the city lights seem brighter for them." He glanced across puddled cobbles toward the red keep's lantern-lit walls. "Bright, aye, and watchful. I hear the new queen pays for bread herself." "That true?" "It is," she said. "Then she's better than the last two demons sat that throne." He spat rainwater. "Long may she keep our bellies full." Marjorie smiled into the dark. "Pray for her, then. She will need it." The man nodded. "Prayer and a good smith, both. Dragons don't fear prayers." "No," she agreed softly. "But sometimes they listen." Lightning forked across the harbor, silhouettes of Euron's longships burning white for an instant before the world plunged into rain again. A night passed. Word arrived from Dragonstone on Raven's wing. Stray feathers scorched as if from dragonflame. The letter bore Tyrion Lannister's careful hand, courteous yet edged. "Most gracious Queen Marjorie, Her Grace Daenerys Stormborn acknowledges your ascent and deplores the bloodshed in its pursuit. She recalls your kindness in Myreen's famine, for your coin reached far indeed, and she honors such charity. Yet the Mother of Dragons was invited home by friends still chained in your capital's dungeons, and she cannot forget the Lannister Lion's debts. She requests parley upon neutral ground, the Dragon Pit of King's Landing 3 days hence with equal escorts. Further, she charges that the Iron Throne is owed to the rightful heir of Aerys II, by birth and by the justice of a realm longing for renewal. She invites you, in friendship, to discuss how best to slice the knot without spilling needless blood. Your servant in honest counsel, Tyrion of House Lannister, hand of the true queen." Marjorie read it twice, lips pursed. Jaime read over her shoulder, tension knotting his jaw. "She calls herself rightful," he muttered. "Your reign barely kindled, and she would snuff it. She would not summon me if she believed force alone sufficient," Marjorie mused. "She doubts her hold on hearts, though dragons burn flesh." She folded the letter. "I will meet her." Jaime stiffened. "The Dragon Pit is ruin. Easy to trap a queen there. Which is why, if she intends treachery, she risks her own person likewise." She opened a chest, withdrew a plain moon-gray cloak. "She will expect roses and thorns. I shall bring simple cloth and open hands. Bring guards. 10 knights, no more. She will match. And you, Ser Jaime, will command archers hidden along the ruin's rim. Should Dragonfire bloom, loose not at the beast, loose at its rider. A dragon may fly wild when hurt, but a dead rider cannot command it." He swallowed, then nodded. "As you say, Your Grace." She touched his cheek lightly. "We practice mercy, not weakness. Remember." 3 days later, dawn bled rose gold over the charred husk of the Dragon Pit. Wind hissed through cracked archways where dragons once roared. Weeds thrust through flagstones like old swords. Marjorie entered on foot, cloak swirling ash. 10 Tyrell knights fanned behind, helms unadorned. Sunlight lanced shafts through broken roof ribs, dust dancing. From the opposite arch, Daenerys Targaryen approached. Silver gold hair braided, black and red scaled coat hugging slender frame. At her side walked Tyrion Lannister, eyes sharp, and behind her unsullied phalanx of equal number. Above, invisible but felt, a dragon's shadow circled. They met at the pit's center, separated by 10 paces. Silence pressed, broken only by wind. Daenerys studied Marjorie, green eyes bright, expression unreadable. Marjorie bowed head just enough to show civility without surrender. "Your Grace," Daenerys began, voice ringing, "twice widowed, once crowned beside a boy king, and now enthroned alone. Westeros tells fables of your grace. I would judge truth for myself." Marjorie inclined her head. "I seek peace, not fables. The realm bleeds too long. And yet you claim a throne that is mine by blood. Blood alone no longer sways this realm. Else Baratheons would still rule and dragons would never have died at all." Marjorie lifted chin. "I claim the throne by will of the people who are fed, the faith that is soothed, and the lords who choose stability over ashes." Tyrion coughed softly. "Stability may crack when dragons land unbidden. Your Grace." Marjorie's gaze flickered upward. The shadow glided across broken stone like a dark tide. "Your dragons are wonders," she said, meeting Daenerys's eyes. "But wonders inspire awe and fear alike. Feed a city with them, and fear may soften. Burn it, and awe turns to hate." A muscle twitched in Daenerys's jaw. "I would not burn innocents, nor would I starve them." Marjorie took a step forward. Knights bristled. Unsullied raised spears. She halted, palms open. "Let us trade sincerity. You wish to free the downtrodden. I wish to nurture them. Our paths share soil. They need not diverge." "And the throne?" Daenerys asked. "That spiked chair cuts every ruler who clings alone. Let us forge a seat wide enough for two." Whispers rustled through escorts. Tyrion's brows shot upward. Daenerys frowned. "You propose joint rule? Queen of dragons and Queen of roses," Marjorie said. "Fire and growth. Your armies quell threats beyond. My coffers rebuild within. Together we heal a fractured realm." "And succession?" Tyrion asked. "We draft a charter," Marjorie answered, "wherein future monarchs are chosen by great council from among our house's lines, requiring approval of the faith and a council of guildsmen from each major city. No more tyrants born only of chance." Daenerys's eyes shimmered with something like hope, quickly veiled. "Councils bend to gold and fear. I have seen it." "Then let us write safeguards," Marjorie urged. "Rotating seats, transparent ledgers, tithes earmarked for common good. We break the wheel by building a garden none dare trample." Silence descended again. Above, wings beat, stirring dust. Jaime watched from ruin edge, bowstring lightly taut though arrow unknocked. At last Daenerys spoke softly. "There is wisdom here, and risk. My followers bled for a throne promised to me, and mine for peace promised by me." Marjorie extended a hand. "Share the burden. Share the harvest." Daenerys stared at the offered palm. Tyrion's voice lowered. "Your Grace, consider." Footsteps echoed. Unsullied captain approaching with scroll. He knelt before Daenerys, presenting message sealed in black wax. She broke it, eyes scanning. Color drained from her cheeks. She looked to the sky, then back at Marjorie. "A raven from Volantis," she said, voice tight. "Euron Greyjoy's fleet attacked Carthene spice ships flying my banner. 2 dragons were dispatched in retribution. One was wounded by ballista fire and lost in storm. Shock rippled through the ruin." Tyrion cursed under breath. "My fleet sails now to hunt the Kraken," Daenerys declared, anger flickering like embers. "Your ally." Marjorie's mind raced. "His act was unsanctioned. Yet you armed him," Daenerys snapped. "Blood debts multiply. Speak of gardens, yet you plant weeds." She turned, cloak swirling. "When next we speak, Queen of Roses, it may be on burning soil." Unsullied closed ranks. The dragon's shadow descended, dust spiraling. With a thunderous rush of wings, Daenerys mounted Drogon, and the beast soared toward the bay. In the echoing silence, Tyrion lingered a heartbeat, eyes full of weary apology. "Perhaps some wheels are greased too soon," he said to Marjorie, then followed his queen. When the ruins emptied, Jaime hurried down. "Are you hurt?" "No," she murmured, watching black speck vanish into sunrise. "But the realm is." "Euron must be leashed," he said, "or slain." Marjorie's hands closed into fists. Both, if need be. That evening, ravens flew from every rookery of the Red Keep. One to stony September summoning Lord Tarley's heir for counsel. One to Sunspear urging Arian to hold back spears lest Dornish blood spill for Kraken crimes. One to Pike, carrying a message no ink could record, writ in cipher known only to Marjorie and a single quiet shadow in the Red Keep cellars. Meanwhile Marjorie descended into the bowels of the keep herself. Past vault doors Cersei never dared open, through tunnels Viserys had scrawled on stolen maps in exile. She stood before an iron-bound gate etched with leering faces. A key turned in her gloved hand, teeth forged by the same smith who once fashioned wildfire jars for King Aerys. Bolts ground aside. Within lay the vaults of Maegor, rooms of forgotten curiosities. Valyrian steel axes, jars of shade of the evening, scrolls penned in dead languages. At the furthest alcove rested a dragon skull smaller than the ones lining throne hall. Perhaps a hatchling's, slender jaw unbroken. Dragons bleed like any beast, she'd told Olenna, and any beast can be understood. She ran fingers over onyx bone, cool under torchlight. Knowledge, she thought, was flame-proof if stored where fire never reached. Beneath this castle, secrets slept like seeds in winter earth. She would sprout them into weapons sharper than steel or scale. Above, bells told 8th hour. She returned to torchlit corridors, emerging into a keep alive with rumors. Euron's fleet recalled to harbor, gold cloaks sealing city gates, unsullied scouts sighted on Rose Road. Through it all, bread still baked, women still prayed, men still drank. Life beat stubbornly in every wound, she reminded herself. A queen must press the cloth, not just wield the blade. In her chambers she found Olenna waiting, twirling a stem of red blossom plucked from the royal gardens Marjorie had ordered replanted. A rose, the old woman observed, may perfume the hand that crushes it. Marjorie slipped the bloom behind her ear. Then let us ensure ours is never crushed. You gambled on alliance. You drew war. I gambled on time, Marjorie corrected. And time still turns. Olenna's gaze softened. A rare, fleeting gentleness. Then plant your feet, girl. Winter's coming on dragon wings. Marjorie walked to the balcony. Below, the city lights flickered, mirrored by stars above. Somewhere beyond the horizon, sails billowed. Some bearing krakens, some seahorses, some three-headed dragons. She inhaled night air heavy with forge smoke and wet stone. I will not be the soft petal they pluck, she vowed. I will be the root they cannot tear free. Behind her, scribes sharpened quills, smiths quenched steel, spies whispered codes. The realm held its breath, balanced on a rose's thorn. And still, outside bakery doors, a child bit into warm bread and tasted hope. Ravens clawed morning sky with dark wings. From Pike came word, Euron would not be leashed. He had seized the silence and half his captains, sailing north beyond the neck on rumor of a dragon wounded and grounded in the Wolfswood. He boasted he would deliver its skull to Marjorie as bridal dowry, or burn Winterfell proving he could. No answer yet reached Sunspear. Dornish spears marched anyway, hungry for lion and kraken alike. Marjorie summoned Jaime, Sansa, and the High Septon. She mapped a new war. Northern snows, iron-born raids, dragons circling wounded skies. She named Jaime Shield of the South to guard Reach Roads, appointed Sansa Queen's Hand in all northern affairs, an unprecedented honor, binding Wolf to Rose. Sansa accepted gravely, seeing beyond titles to the nets tightening around her people. By noon, white ravens departed Old Town announcing first frosts. Winter official. Marjorie stood in the rookery watching their wings fade east. Snow would blanket graves and fields alike. In such hush, seeds slept. Yet with care, they endured. She breathed frosted air and composed silent prayer. To the seven, to old gods, to whatever listened above bloody clouds. Asking not for victory, but for wisdom enough to make victory worth the price. Somewhere across chill water, Daenerys nursed a wounded dragon and weighed the scales of mercy and wrath. Somewhere amid pines, Euron prowled for scaled prey, madness humming a salt-soaked lullaby. And somewhere deep beneath Maegor's holdfast, green jars of wildfire slumbered still, patient as seeds of apocalypse. The Game of Thrones had birthed a new board, tiles of ash and snow, pieces of rose and dragon glass. Margaery moved first, stepping into winter armed not with steel alone but with bread, with books, with a gardener's faith that even in the coldest months, life pressed upward, seeking sun. Night settled, heralding the longest season. Yet within her, a quiet spring thrummed, stubborn, inevitable. She would outlast the blizzard. She would coax blossoms from frozen ground and teach dragons to leave petals unscorched. For she was Margaery of the Seven Blossoms, queen of thorns and mercy, and her reign, like the fiercest rose, was only just beginning to bloom. The first snow of the season settled upon King's Landing like an uneasy blessing, tiny white feathers dissolving on steaming roof tiles before they could whisper the promise of winter. Margaery Tyrell stood on a parapet above the red keep's eastern curtain wall, cloak clasped tight at her throat, watching flakes melt against stone still warm from yesterday's sun. City bells rang matins in the streets below, and the voices of septons drifted upward, echoing across the bay where Euron's longships bobbed impatiently at anchor. Beneath that everyday clamor throbbed a deeper pulse of disquiet, the brittle hush that precedes either snowfall or blood. She focused on the harbor first. 20 kraken-proud hulls rode tide and ice-kissed spray, sails furled, rigging creaking like jaws clenched in the cold. The iron-born crews loitered on decks, swilling ale they could ill afford, faces a blur of resentment and expectancy. Euron had left them under the command of his brother Victarion when he sailed north in search of crippled dragon and ill-fated glory. Victarion was a simpler beast than Euron, but even a dog's temper will snap if left chained too long without war or plunder. Thus Margaery had ordered docking fees waived for the Kraken fleet and granted shore leave in measured lots. Funneling the reavers toward taverns, she discreetly stocked with reach wine and free-flowing coin. A pirate stuffed and drunken is slower to mutiny than one restless and hungry. Yet she could all but taste their fear of the Targaryen wrath smoldering beyond the horizon. A fear that might, if kindled, burn her city from within before a dragon's fire need cross the walls. Above the maritime brood loomed a different unease. Somewhere in the paling sky, unseen but sensed, Drogon's hunting circles described a silent threat. The black dragon soared beyond sight yet cast an invisible shadow that chilled the very air. Merchants quickened their bargaining to be home sooner, guards stood beneath awnings to watch the heavens, and children played at nights only under arches of inner court, shrieking the dragon's name like a ghost story come alive. Weeks had passed since the parley at the dragon pit, but Daenerys's answer was not yet written in siege lines or peace parchments. Instead, she held position in the bayside fortress of Dragonstone, her unsullied drilling on dead volcano slopes, her Dothraki raiders patrolling narrow strips of shore. A standstill, blade angled against shield, waiting for the tremor of commitment to strike. And so King's Landing lived each day like a patient under a sword, still breathing, but with shallow breaths lest any motion slice the flesh. Footsteps crunched behind her. Jaime Lannister approached in leather and mail darkened to a drab bronzen hue, a far cry from the gilded panoply of his father's hall. Snow dotted his cloak, turning lion fur to frosted lichen. He rested gloved fingers on the merlin beside her, golden prosthetic kept from the stone as though mindful its gleam might warn hawk-eyed scouts beyond the river. "Another scouting raven from the north," he said without preamble. "Euron has broken off." His longships skirmished a wolf banner near the flint cliffs and then vanished into the bight. No sign of a dragon carcass or captured prize. "Which means he hunts still," Margaery replied. "Or he has found prey but cannot tow it across frozen sea. Either way, winter sea will chew his hulls." Jaime's breath clouded. "Viserion may yet drown him before we must." She offered a calm nod yet felt the thorn of risk twist. "And what of Daenerys?" 7 sails unfurled from Dragonstone yesterday. A small detachment, not war scale. Envoys or scouts? Hard to say. Rumor claims a red priestess now counsels her. You remember Melisandre? If robed witches guide her, the banners may carry prophecy instead of peace. Marjorie's smile came thin. Prophecy can be bribed as readily as swords. If the priestess seeks the light's will, we shall give her torches of gold. Jaime studied her profile, frost limning the delicate curve of cheekbone. Do you never tire of bartering, your grace? There are times even a good man chooses dagger over coin. I will choose whatever weight tips the balance toward life, she answered. Should coin fail, steel becomes coin enough. He inclined his head, acceptance mingled with unease, and passed her a folded parchment bearing the seal of House Tarly. She broke wax, scanning briskly. Randall's heir reports bandit raids near Bitterbridge, she summarized. Wolves in iron-born colors, striking sparks with Northmen over cattle and grain. Without our garrison there, southbound wheat trains may falter. We must reinforce. I will ride, Jaime offered. You are needed here. She slipped parchment into sleeve. Ser Brienne commands at Cobbler's Round now. I trust her to restore the road. Sansa trusts Brienne more than any knight alive. Marjorie turned, studying Snow Swirl about the lord she relied upon. His eyes, once polished mirrors to cunning, bore a quieter glint these days, a tempered heat rather than wildfire. Do you regret your choice? She asked suddenly. To leave behind family, name, golden legend? Jaime's jaw tightened slightly. I did not leave my name. I choose what it means henceforth. He looked east to the broken arm of Dorne far beyond sight. Cersei used the lion for a cage. You would use it for shield. That is difference enough. Their gaze met. Unspoken gratitude passed between queen and knight. He bowed and withdrew, cloak rustling snow to dust. Alone again, Marjorie clasped chilled fingers lest they tremble. Regret had become a luxury she could no longer indulge. Every cost purchased a moment of breathing room for thousands. Yet sometimes she felt the ghost of her youth, of simpler dreams where she might have remained a daughter of Highgarden, tending roses rather than realms. That girl still existed, but as memory of fragrance in a garden burned to ash. She descended stone stairs into the solar where Sansa waited behind a desk strewn with parchment sent from Winterfell and White Harbor. The flames in the hearth glowed low, their warmth licked by drafts creeping under doorframes, but Sansa's red-gold hair shone bright as autumn leaves. She looked older than her years, war and loss carved lines of quiet caution along her mouth, and yet a softness endured in her eyes, a patient lake unbroken by petty winds. The northern levies have begun their march, Sansa said, sliding 2 scrolls across. 6,000 spears from Carhold and Deepwood Motte, half as many archers, wagons of cured venison. Under good commanders? Marjorie asked. Ser Jorah Harker leads the spears. Archers answer to Lady Alice Mormont. A faint smile touched Sansa's lips. She's 12 now and twice as fierce as at 10. The men fear her more than the White Walkers they once imagined. Marjorie laughed softly. Let them carry that fear south. It will sharpen spears better than any whetstone. Sansa gestured toward a third parchment still sealed by red wax bearing the flayed man of House Bolton. And this? Marjorie's smile faded. I have not opened it. Why? Sansa asked. He is your prisoner. He was, Marjorie corrected. Roose Bolton's last surviving son has rotted below the twins' oubliette for 3 winters. Lord Manderly asks permission to hand him over to Northern Justice. Which means execution. Public, Marjorie confirmed. Before Wintermarket crowds to prove the North's loyalty to this crown. He seeks my word. Sansa's throat bobbed. Ramsay deserves every sword stroke. Yet I remember the smell of burning corpses on snow. Revenge is a fast fire. Cold lingers. Marjorie weighed the scroll. Will his death quiet the wolves or stir their hunger? Quiet the North, Sansa said at last. But give them a new enemy quickly after, or they'll turn noses south again. Wolves must hunt. Then we shall give them prey. The iron-born raiders near Bitterbridge. Let the North bleed krakens, not roses. She broke the Bolton seal and dipped pen to sign her assent. Without comment, Sansa sprinkled sand across the wet ink. The door swung inward. Lady Olenna strode in, cheeks flushed from winter air, her cane raptile like a warning drum. "My dears," she announced. "The Dornish delegation is sighted on the Rose Road, 2 hours hence. They come with spears and grievances." "And envoys of trade, I hope," Marjorie said. "Uncle Garth readies feast in throne room? Fat geese stuffed with apricots," Olenna sniffed. "Waste of apricots. Dornish prefer spice. No doubt they shall complain. Better prepare a pot of vipers, they might enjoy that more." Marjorie's mouth quirked. "We shall rely on your sweetness to placate them, grandmother." "Humph." Olenna's eyes twinkled sharper than icicles. "If sweetness is syrup, I will bring bees. Let's see if Dornish tongues appreciate sting." The Dornish princes arrived beneath banners of copper suns pierced by spears of gold. Over 100 riders trotted into the Red Keep's outer yard, scarlet sand cloaks whipping in the wind, lances tipped with gilded iron. Leading them rode Princess Arianne Martell astride a dappled palfrey draped in orange silk. She wore no crown. Dorne recognized none save the sun spear forged in stories. But a circlet of sunfire rubies glowed upon her brow, each stone carved to facets that caught winter sun in searing sparks. Marjorie greeted her at the steps with formal bow, resisting urge to adjust her own thorns and emeralds. Beside Marjorie stood Sansa, robed in ice-blue velvet trimmed with white fox. Behind Sansa, the High Septon hovered like a crusader carved of snow. Olenna Tyrell clacked her cane once, signaling pageantry commence. Trumpets blew. Dornish herald proclaimed peace between House Martell and the crown of the Seven Blossoms, sealed by salt, sun, and soil. Arianne dismounted, swirling her cloak over saddle before approaching with measured grace. Her eyes flickered across each host, cataloging allies and threats. When they settled on Marjorie, challenge gleamed. "Queen of Roses," Arianne said, tone warm yet edged. "We ride far from Dornish warmth to meet you. May we find heat enough here to thaw weary bones." Marjorie extended hand. "The Red Keep's hearths burn bright, and my cellars brimmed with arbor and Dorne vintage alike. Come inside before snow steals your color." "In Dorne color never fades," Arianne replied, but she clasped the offered hand. Skin to skin, heat pulsed. An unspoken conversation passed. Measurement of wills, of desire, of ambition. Marjorie guided her up stone steps while lords followed. Feast unfurled in the throne room under candelabra that dripped scented wax shaped as roses and spears, purchased from Bravosi artisans at ridiculous expense. Musicians plucked harps crafted of weirwood and dragonbone. Banners flickered above dais where the Iron Throne glowered behind a new velvet canopy embroidered with thorns and 7-pointed stars. Marjorie purposely did not sit the throne during dinner. She presided from a lower seat nearer guests, leaving the spiked seat an unspoken reminder, not a boast. Talk flowed. Of bandits quelled along Prince's Pass, of the price of saffron after stepstone storms, of whether dragonglass might prove profitable trade. Arianne listened more than she spoke, a feline stillness behind jeweled lashes. At last, after musicians launched into a languid love ballad, she leaned toward Marjorie. "Tell me," she murmured over rim of golden goblet, "why you truly summoned Sunspear, coin and courtesy weigh light next to risk of dragonfire. What bargain staves off flame?" Marjorie considered candied fig upon her plate. "Daenerys Targaryen mistrusts me because of Euron's marauding. If Dornish galleys ally with Krakens, suspicion hardens to certainty. But if Dorne sails instead escort grain convoys to Dragonstone, suspicion weakens." Arianne arched brow. "You would have Martell Ors feed dragons?" "I would have Martell Ors escort aid to starving villagers along Crownland's coast," Marjorie corrected. "That the dragons witness generosity where they expected hostility may bend their flight." Arianne swirled wine. "And what blood price? Our soldiers died under Targaryen banners in the cause of restoration. You shall be repaid in influence." Marjorie gestured across hall where Tyrell, Hightower, and Manderly lords toasted. Dorne long lived at Realm's Edge, more legend than partner. Stand with me now, and the small council seats a martel forevermore. Ports of Old Town, Lannisport, Gulltown will waive tariffs on Dornish silks for 3 years. And when a joint council chooses heirs to this throne, Sunspear holds vote equal to Old Town or Winterfell. Arianne met her gaze. Bold promises. Thrones shift. Words linger in ashes. Then let us temper promises in writ, Marjorie said, signaling scribe to bring parchment. Ink binds long after iron dulls. Before scribe arrived, trumpet fanfare split air. Doors boomed open. Lord Varys entered. Pale, hairless, smiling like a cat near cream. Uninvited, yet unbarred. He bowed low, presenting sealed letter. Your Grace, he cooed. Fresh tidings from Volantis. Urgent as wildfire. Marjorie's pulse quickened. She accepted scroll, wax stamped with a 3-headed dragon silhouette ringed by flames. She cracked seal, scanning quickly. Words sharpened blood.
Euron Greyjoy captured.
Dragon Viserion found alive yet maimed. Held in steel net near cannibal-infested Skagos. Bolton turncloaks assisting. Daenerys sails north with Dothraki horde and Unsullied. Demands realm's armies join rescue or be deemed complicit. Noise drained from hall. Only harp strings trembled. Marjorie folded letter. News grave, Arianne inquired. Marjorie forced steady breath. No graver than winter. She rose, voice carrying across hall. Lords and ladies, the realm calls again. We convene war council at dawn. Tonight, rest, feast, and pray to gods of your choosing. Guests murmured. She signaled musicians. Song resumed hesitant. Then she turned, sweeping toward private exit. Olenna and Sansa fell into step, Varys trailing silent as candle smoke. In solar, door shut, she let mask drop. A dragon wounded yet alive, she whispered. If Euron keeps it, he holds terror beyond measure. Olenna sniffed. Not while Skagos cannibals savor kraken meat. Sansa frowned. But Daenerys will scorch north to reclaim her child. Northern levies will be trampled between. Marjorie paced. And the north soon to march south at my bidding for kraken culling. If they meet Daenerys on field, alliance shatters. Varys cleared throat. A quiet suggestion. Embrace the rescue. Dispatch your own host to liberate Viserion before she arrives. Present both dragon and kraken captive in chains. A gift may soothe wrath. Marjorie paused. Our banners freeing her dragon could forge trust. Could, Varys echoed. And Euron removed, his fleet scattered, your harbor's safer. Sansa nodded slowly. We know Skagos coasts better than Dothraki. My mother sailed seas near their escaping king's landing once. Northern lords guided her. Marjorie considered. A covert strike, fast ships, chosen knights, northern trackers. Not an army, a blade. Olenna smirked. I will sharpen the blade. You, child, polish the smile. Night taxed the keep. By torchlight, maps of the shivering sea spread across war table like an open grave. Brienne of Tarth pointed calloused finger along ice-splintered coastline. Skagos reefs tier hulls. Only shallow draft longships slip close. Ironborn forges craft such hulls. Jaime, arms crossed, studied map. Victarion still moors in Blackwater. We seize 3 of his sleekest vessels, crew them with Northmen and reach sailors. And Victarion? Brienne asked. Detained, Jaime said, voice flat. Quietly, Lord Davos Seaworth, summoned from White Harbor, leaned over parchment, salt and pepper beard bristling. I've smuggled onions through narrower gates than any ironborn reef. Give me 1 good ship, black sails, and I'll carry 20 of your best ashore under moon. Marjorie regarded Onion Knight with measured appreciation. You shall have 2. Choose captain for the 3rd. Brienne commands shore party. Sansa selects Northman trackers. Jaime stepped forward. And I? You remain my shield, she said firmly. King's Landing cannot sit hollow. Dragons may yet strike south while we chase north. Jaime's brow furrowed. He bowed reluctantly. Plans set, they dispersed. Marjorie lingered alone beside Map, fingertip tracing the cold, northerly currents swirling around Skagos. Each swirl seemed an eddy swirling within her chest. Fear, hope, risk. She prayed again to Seven and to any who listened in dark, praying not to be forced into choice between rose and dragon, between bread and blood. Sleep visited near dawn, haunted by snow-capped roses dripping crimson dew. While Davos prepared sails, Marjorie confronted Victarion Greyjoy. He was kept in a cellar room lined with caged ravens, each bird muffled under burlap to hush their croaks. For Queen's Guard ringed the door, swords half out when she entered. Victarion sat on bench shackled by wrists, hair lank with sweat, lips crusted from withheld drink. When she uncloaked, his single good eye sparked. "A pretty reef to bait storm," he rasped. "We borrow 3 of your longships," she stated. "Crews you will name, else I choose. Speak true and live to sail home." Victarion spat blood. "I serve no flower." She stepped closer, meeting glare unflinching. "Serve the realm or serve the stranger. Your brother's folly endangers more than thrones. Threatens seize your people fish. Starve sailors or save them." He growled low, but the chain clank betrayed tremor of doubt. "What guarantee? Iron price yields only salt wives and chains. I guarantee gold claws instead of iron ones." From sleeve she removed a small pouch, scattering coins across bench. Etched krakens minted from purest white gold, rare relics of old Valyria. Victarion's eye widened. He touched one with trembling finger. "These," she whispered, "bought from Bravo's collectors, enough to enchant every pyre priest you worship. Name crews, earn them." Within an hour she left with list of hardened helmsmen loyal more to coin than Euron. Ravens shrieked behind curtains as she climbed. By midday, Davos's black sail flotilla slipped out a secret cove north of Driftmark under false merchant guise. Brienne, garbed in quilted grays, boarded with Sansa's picked rangers. Inui Umbers, silent Starks, a Mormont child no older than 11 but arrow-sure. They left behind letters sealed for Marjorie's hands alone. Farewell lines should sea claim them. On ramparts, Marjorie watched sails fade. Gulls wheeled, crying. She folded arms, hiding shiver beneath furs. Olenna joined silent. "Send one thorn into frost," she murmured, "and frost may keep it." "It will take root," Marjorie replied, though heart skipped. "And from root new branches grow." Winter deepened. Roads glazed with black ice, and bread lines grew again as cold gnawed appetite. Marjorie kept bakeries lit day and night, distributing halfpenny loaves pitched as Queen's gift. Minstrels sang songs of how Marjorie's ovens beat winter quicker than swords. Yet cracks formed. Candle prices rose, charcoal merchants hoarded supply, and crime's whisper slithered through narrow alleys after curfew bells. The gold cloaks, restaffed with reach officers, patrolled yet lacked manpower. She authorized pay raises, pulling coins from wedding treasury she once reserved for Tommen's unborn heirs. Ironic, perhaps, that Tommen's dowry funds now bought knives to guard his city in a world he never lived to see. Word came of Daenerys's muster. 8,000 unsullied embarked from Dragonstone upon Braavosi leases, sails black with 3 red heads. Dothraki outriders rode barges to Blackwater Mouth, then galloped north along King's Road. Marjorie sent envoys bearing charters of passage, free grain wagons, winter cloaks. Daenerys accepted the gifts but advanced without pause. Her silence writ a message starker than any refusal. Trust remains pending. As days slipped by, ravens from Davos arrived sparingly. Ice storms grounded many. Those that did arrive sketched grim progress. Reefs shredded one longship's hull. Crew survived on makeshift rafts, rescued by sisters. They spotted the wreck of a massive drake skeleton uprooted in storm surge, likely a juvenile long dead. Rumor misblown as Viserion's corpse by coastal fishermen. But still no sight of Euron's camp, nor dread dragon. In the keep, board after board of advisors weighed risk. Lord Leighton Hightower pushed for raising entire Reach host to march north. High Septon urged prayer and fast. Sansa proposed dispatching ravens to every northern holdfast to withhold shelter from Ironborn. Amid debate, News struck. Bolton prisoners hanged at Winterfell. Ramsay's head spiked above gate. Northern crowds cheered, but others chanted, "The dragon comes." Fear rode icy winds. Marjorie met Sansa at Godswood Courtyard. Snow-dusted carved faces of bone-white weirwoods recently transplanted from Crownland's forests at her order, gestures of respect to old gods. Sansa knelt before one such sapling, fingers cold-pale against crimson leaves. Marjorie joined her on bench. "Blood spills, yet hearts unquiet," Sansa whispered. "The North freed itself," Marjorie replied. "Yes, but killing a devil births ghosts." She turned, blue eyes haunted. Some whisper vengeance still owed upon South. They remember Ned Stark's head, Robb's corpse, the red wedding ghosts. Marjorie exhaled. "Ghosts are fed by silence. We must speak. Convene assembly on Maiden Square. Invite northern settlers to share grievances. Words seldom hush hunger," Sansa warned. "Then we shall feed them again." She squeezed Sansa's hand. "Your counsel steadies me. And you," Sansa said, "teach me flowers bloom amid stone." Yet stone cracks slow. They parted to tasks heavy as snowfall. Midnight blackness. A lone raven clattered at window of Marjorie's bedchamber, feathers crusted in frost. She rose from restless sleep, unlatched shutter. The raven toppled inside, talons gripping sill. Tied to leg, a parchment sealed with sketched onion. Hands shaking, she broke seal by hearth. Davos's cramped script rattled. Found the kraken. Found the dragon. Joined on. A charcoal smudge shaped like skull followed. No further lines. She summoned Jaime, Varys, Olenna within minutes. "Prepare riders," she commanded. "We leave sunrise. I go north." Jaime's eyes glinted alarm. "You cannot. The city will endure until my return. A queen's presence may sway both dragon and kraken." Olenna smirked. "Madness echoes Aegon's conquest. Queen in field to tame fire. Better than cowering behind walls," Marjorie answered. "Jaime, you hold counsel in my stead. Sansa remains to guide lords. I trust both of you." Varys inclined head. "If I may, your grace, discretion suggests smaller entourage." "Agreed. 10 riders. We travel by fast horses to White Harbor, then board Davos's remaining ship south of Brandon's Gift."
No fanfare.
Jaime opened mouth to protest. She silenced him with look gentle yet irrefutable. "We ride within hour." Snow beat from iron sky as they galloped along King's Road. Marjorie, Olenna, 5 Queen's Guard, 3 Reach Outriders. Cloaks weighed heavy with ice. Hooves sunk into slush that swallowed sound. At first toll of dawn, they crossed Trident Fords where Ned Stark once claimed victory. Now only ravens braved the battlements. At midday they reached Derry, where stable hands gaped to discover Queen in travel-stained garb requesting fresh nags. She offered a silver rose brooch in trade. The boy who received it would tell grandchildren of that morning until his dying breath. 2 days' ride became 3 as storms slowed pace. On 4th dawn they glimpsed White Harbor's walls bleached by wind-blown snow, banners of mermen lord rippling like ghosts. Davos's smuggler's sloop awaited at Hidden Cove beneath Rocky Bluff, black sail furled, deck crewed by Northmen and 2 mute Tyrell oarsmen. Brienne stood aboard, armor crusted with rime. She met Marjorie at gangplank, unsmiling but eyes alight with relief. "We have location," she reported while wind whipped cloaks. "Skagos' southern fong, an inlet shielded by ice cliffs. Euron built a makeshift palisade, ringed by ballista. Cannibals watch from Treeline, kept at bay with burnt offerings it seems." "The dragon?" Marjorie asked. "Chained by iron nets staked to rock. Wings torn, but fire still in throat. Euron flaunts it like captured storm. He intends to sail it south as gift to you or to Daenerys, whichever notion pleases him when madness peaks." Marjorie shivered not from cold. "Then we must free it before his whim shifts." Brienne nodded grimly. "Night attack. Nets cut. Ironborn cut deeper, dragon loosed. Davos says favorable tidal flow midnight." Olenna snorted behind them. Midnight in ice, gully-freeing dragon from lunatic. Delightful. Bring archers, Marjorie ordered. But no flaming arrows, dragons fire enough. They set sail that eve under muted stars. Wave crests gleamed dull pewter. Frost rhymed every rope. Davos steered through labyrinthine shoals known to smugglers alone. At last they anchored beyond sight of palisade. Sound of hammer on iron drifted faintly across bay. Euron forging additional chains perhaps, or forging madness into metal. Brienne assembled assault. 2 detachments to scale cliff and sever nets, 3rd to storm palisade gate under distraction. Marjorie donned mail shirt beneath gray cloak. She would stand rear flank, issuing signal for dragon release. Olenna remained aboard vessel, her cane not built for ice battle. Under cover of swirling snow they rode ashore. Northmen moved like wraiths, blades wrapped in fur to silence clash. Marjorie's heart drummed with each crunch of ice. She tasted iron. At cliff base, rangers hammered pitons, ropes drawn taut. Brienne led climb. Despite size, she ascended nimble as lynx. Marjorie's gloves slipped. Jaime's earlier training in stable yards raced to mind. Weight forward, toes secure. But she had to trust body. Halfway, a cry split night. An iron-born sentry, perched above, leaned to relieve himself off cliff and spotted movement. His yell echoed like cracked horn. Arrows hissed upward. He toppled, but alarm raised. Brienne crested rim, sword flashing. Marjorie pulled onto ledge seconds later, boots crunching snow as Ironborn converged. Chaos erupted. Northern axes met reaver hooks. Screams tore air. Flames roared from caged braziers. Silhouettes danced. Marjorie darted toward dragon nets. Viserion lay coiled, scales dull blue-silver marred by dried blood. One wing drooped, membrane shredded. Eyes glimmered ember gold. Chains clinked with each ragged breath, steam gusting from nostrils. He watched combat with primal fury yet remained still. Perhaps understanding his fire would immolate captors and rescuers alike. Davos severed first net with bolt cutter. Link snapped. Metal rang. Ironborn sprinted to stop, but Brienne interposed. Shield raised, carving path. Blood-specked snow. Euron appeared amid smoke. Hair wild, black coat fringed with bone trophies. He brandished a black steel axe etched with runes. Laughter spilled like seawater through rotted hull. "Blossom comes to bloom in my frost garden," he crowed, stalking toward Marjorie. "Will you have my dragon, sweet rose? Or will I have your blood for its breakfast?" She faced him, drawing narrow dirk from belt. Fear hammered but resolve colder. "You stole what you cannot hold." He whirled axe overhead. "Hold? I marry fire and drown worlds." He charged. Marjorie backstepped, dirk flicking to parry. Impact jarred arm. Blade sailed from fingers. She stumbled, snow swallowing foot. Euron raised axe. Arrow thudded into his bicep. Brienne's shot. Axe slowed. Second arrow pierced thigh. He roared, turning. Marjorie dove, seizing fallen dirk, slashing across his calf. Blood sprayed. He swung blindly. She ducked. Brienne closed, long sword cleaving through his raised forearm. Axe clattered. Euron staggered, feral grin fading to shock. He laughed once more, weak, wet, and toppled into snow, eyes fixed upon Dragon's burning gaze. Chains severed, nets shrugged, Viserion rose. Muscles trembled, but he stood. A final shackle bound hind leg to boulder. Davos struck with pickaxe until link fractured. Freed, Dragon unfurled damaged wings, beat once. Twice, snow billowed. He roared, flame gouting skyward, blue fire melting ice in spectacular shower. Brienne hauled Marjorie backward. Clear, Dragon launched skyward, trailing embers that sizzled within snowstorm. Wind blast flattened tents, swept torches into sea. Palisade groaned. Ironborn fled or knelt, yet Viserion did not flee south. He circled cliff, eyes reflecting braziers below. His roar vibrated bone. Marjorie lifted torch, waving wide arcs, hoping to signal kinship. The dragon's gaze locked upon bright swirl, head tilting. Then, with another blast of frigid flame, he banked seaward, arrows of frost trailing, and disappeared into night. Silence crashed down. Snowflakes hissed upon charred wood. Brienne panted, sword dripping. Marjorie looked to Euron, body unmoving, half-covering axe. She stepped forward, toes touching crimson slush. Life remained? She nudged with boot. He coughed, lips frothing. He whispered, "Storm still comes." A smile ragged as torn sail. Then his eyes glazed. She knelt, closing lids. "No more storms," she breathed. In dawn's gray shimmer, they burned ironborn dead upon pyre, cannibals watching from tree line until Dragon's echo frightened them back. Davos's crew loaded wounded onto barges. Marjorie lingered at cliff edge, scanning sky for blue-white speck. None. Brienne approached. "We must sail before tide traps us." Marjorie nodded, yet stared once more. "He will find his queen. Daenerys may see your hand in this," Brienne said. Marjorie exhaled. "Let her know roses freed her child." Return voyage brutal, but by time sloop reached White Harbor, a raven awaited. Daenerys approaches Winterfell with Unsullied and dragons, two now reunited. She invites Queen of Roses to parley before Castle of Stark. Marjorie allowed small smile. "Then we ride again," Olenna groaned. "My bones protest." "They shall have warm chambers inside Winterfell's halls," Marjorie teased. Sansa, reunited with them at port, embraced Brienne fiercely. Snow cloaked all three women, their breath mingling like one spirit. Days later, they rode across frozen barrows to Winterfell, where banners of wolf and rose fluttered side by side. Atop battlements, Daenerys awaited in white furs, Viserion perched behind, wing bandaged but eyes bright. Drogon's sword overhead, black shape against pewter sky. As Marjorie dismounted, Daenerys descended stairs. They met within wind's howl, hair whipping. Neither bowed. Instead, Daenerys extended gloved hand. Marjorie took it. "Your mercy freed my son," Daenerys said simply. "Mercy wins wars before swords," Marjorie replied. They clasped hands longer than ceremony required. Around them, soldiers eased grips, breath fogging in relief. Sansa watched, hope smoothing the tension in her brow. Brienne sheathed sword. Snowflakes drifted between two queens, melting upon shared warmth of joined hands. The north held its breath. Marjorie felt equilibrium settle. A fragile bloom still, but roots finding soil. The true war was not over thrones, but over hearts battered by too many winters of steel and flame. Yet in this moment, beneath ancient walls, two seeds of peace tapped at frost and found each other. Her voice gentle, she spoke the words she had drafted first by candlelight months ago, now ready to echo across realm. "Let us write a realm where roses and dragons grow together." Daenerys' eyes glimmered with tears and resolve. "And spring may come at last." Together they turned toward Winterfell's gate, footsteps side by side, as snow lifted on breeze like petals at dawn.